Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to a very special edition of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you very much, as always, for watching, listening, following, subscribing. If you are watching us on the video side, we actually here are live, and we are at Sonny Red's in Lackawanna, sunny Lackawanna, just minutes down the road from Highmark Stadium. I'm joined by a special guest. I got to say this, man, before we even get cooking and talking any Buffalo Bills, by the way, again, people on the video side can already see it's not the audio side. Joe Marino, Locked On Bills, one of the best content creators out there. And I wish people could have been here for the 2 hours leading up to this show that we're doing live, because I got to say this before I even bring you in, man. I don't care about this podcast anymore. I don't care about the conversations we're going to have. You know what I wish I had? I wish I had a film crew here. I wish I had a documentary crew here right now just to go through these last 2 hours. Insane, man. You are a very welcomed civilian here in Western New York. You've been here. We got here at around 6 o'clock, and quite literally, we still have almost a full plate of wings sitting there at a table, which we're going to be banging out now after this show, because people have been coming up to you very kindly and just wanting to conversate with you, get some photos, get to know you a little bit. And you obviously have been more than obliging to all of them. It was kind of just sitting back and watching. Pretty surreal, man.
Bills Mafia is awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's a special group of people, and it's my favorite part of what we get to do. I mean, let's be real. Every day I talk into a microphone and I look at a wall. And so to have the opportunity to say hello to the people that listen to the podcast and allow me to do this, man, it means so much to me. And whenever they're around, whether there's people that want to talk, I just want to give them my time, because they give me their ear every day.
Yeah.
And so it means the world to me. And Bills Mafia is so awesome. Like, we're so many different people with different backgrounds and everything in the world, but we're united by the Buffalo Bills. And in a world where I think we can use some more unity, it's nice that that can be a unifying factor among people, and we can bond despite all the things that might be different about us. We can connect and have good relationships because we share a common bond in loving the Buffalo Bills. So Bills Mafia is awesome, and I'm so thankful that they're nice to me.
You know, at the risk of being cheesy, it was all love too. You know what I mean? People have been really kind here, and there's still a lot of people sitting around lingering, watching, which is funny because I said, I need to get a PA system so we can start broadcasting the shows out live to the people in the bar. I'm always thinking about the people watching it live on the YouTube side. There'd be a lot of people here listening. But again, I kind of wish I had some videos to show fans right now of the last couple hours, which, we did the show at 8 o'clock, and Joe's like, well, I'm going to get up there around 6. I want to be honest with you. I'm like, why? Like, why are you going to get here at 6 o'clock? I'm like, 7 o'clock is plenty. Dude, you could have came here at 5. I still feel like you would have been occupied.
It's Tailgate Tom right there.
Tailgate Tom in the house, man. And by the way, not just people coming up to you and, saying hello and getting photos, having conversations. Like, I've seen a couple of people literally give you a gift.
Yeah.
There's one.
Show it.
This is heavy, man. If you're watching on the video side, this is really cool, man. This is really cool.
They made that.
Wow.
I mean, I couldn't even begin to figure that out. But it's super cool. I can't wait to put it in my office.
That looks really great, man. All right, so we are here again at Sonny Red's. Now, this is not your first time here at Sonny Red's. You were here once before, but it was a while ago, wasn't it? You did a Perino show.
Yeah, I think it was maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, that went down the wrong headphone there. My bad. Anyway, yeah, lots changed here at Sonny Red's in the last 3 years. You've had wings here. The wings are really good. Again, you didn't get a chance yet to dig in. You only got to have 2 wings. By the way, your unique way of eating wings.
Is it unique? It's the umbrella. Like, if you get a flat, you got to umbrella that thing. You got to you pinch your fingers together at the top, push it down, get all the meat at the bottom, and you can get it in one bite. And it's, I
don't see people do that. You act like it's common. It's not
They got to get on board with it because it's a great way to maximize the remaining blue cheese. And when you're full, you got 10 wings and you got like the last 2 or 3 and you're full, you save the flats for the end, and you meat umbrella those last 2 or 3, and you get the most out of your blue cheese, and you're able to power through the wings.
You use a lot of blue cheese. Now, I've had wings with you. This is only twice now. And again, this was pretty much a 2-wing little pit stop here before we're doing the show because of all the people that have been coming up to you. Last year, we did a show at Imperial Pizza, and that was a really good time as well. Shout out to Imperial. But this is one of my favorite places now in Western New York. The wings are fantastic. We got some pizza, some brick oven pizza, which I definitely want you to try once this show's over. But fish fries, burgers, man, they got all kinds of good shit here. Really good vibe, too.
It is. I like being here. And I'll tell you what, if I lived in Western New York, you'd be a real problem for me. We'd probably be doing some significant chicken wing analysis, hitting the spots. But I'm thankful that you've invited me now the last 2 times that I've been here to come do this with you. So thank you.
The pleasure's mine, man. And I'm on a more serious note, like I'm kind of making light of it, but it is really cool to sit back and watch people interact with you, because one of the things that I've always liked about you, besides being a great podcaster, that goes without saying, people are here primarily because they enjoy listening to you or watching you pretty much every day. But you also, and I think this matters in the world of podcasting, you could be a great podcaster, you could have good content, you could speak well, you could be knowledgeable, but you have to be able to interact with people. You got to know your audience. And I think that is something that through the years, from what I've seen from you, you've really excelled at it. Like every conversation that you've had that I've seen tonight and last year at Imperial Pizza, same kind of deal. It feels like even if it's just for 2 minutes, it's a intimate, personal kind of feeling conversation. You're letting people know that you appreciate them and I know you do, because it's kind of like what you were talking about. It's your lifeline. These are your lifeline right now. These people who are tuning in to watch and listen to what you have to say.
Yeah, it's special, man. It really is special. Gratitude's the word I come back to, man. I'm so thankful that I get to do this. And, it's important that they're listeners and it allows me to do what I do. But, there's genuine, I feel like these people really care about me, and I want to care about them too. And I get to talk to them every day, but they don't get to talk back to me. And so it's finally my opportunity for me to give them my year as opposed to the other way around.
And we were talking for a couple minutes before we went on the air here tonight, and there's a fly right near my face that's just buzzing around. But this is talking Bills is your element. Having a microphone in front of you is your element. Having a camera in front of you, that's your element. But going into bars, hanging out, stuff like that, not necessarily your element. But I couldn't tell that tonight. You hide it pretty well, man. Usually you're not the most extroverted person away from Locked On Bills and your other media stuff that you do.
Yeah, you're trying to fish something out of me, Pat.
I am. I'm trying.
You're trying to pull something out of me there, Pat Moran. I think I'm by nature. I think I'm kind of introverted. Yeah. But when I have common ground with people, I really enjoy that. If I were to meet somebody and they really couldn't talk about football, I don't got much to offer, man. I don't have much to offer. I can talk about my kids, my wife, just
umbrella style wings.
I can chicken wing eating techniques. Not a lot going on here. So it's nice that there's something that I can connect with people over, and it allows us to have good conversations. And it's funny how much we don't talk about the Bills. You know what I mean? When I interact with people, it's we talk about the Bills a little bit, but it's mostly, tell me about yourself. Where you're from. How do you listen to the podcast? Oh, you are a truck driver. I met somebody that drives weekly from Buffalo to El Paso right here. Right. And so we're able to connect over that. You know what I mean? So super cool, man. It's fun.
And by the way, we're going to get into some Bills talk here just a minute. I know how it is, man. There's always a couple people dude, will you shut up and get to some Bills talk? That's why I'm listening. That's why I'm watching right now. We're going to get there, man. So you are in town this week. You live in North Carolina. Most people already know that. You've been at camp already a couple of days. You're going to be there the rest of the week as well. Before we get into the actual camp itself, what are you obviously you're here tonight, Sonny Reds in Lackawanna. What have you been doing with your downtime?
Trying to eat as many chicken wings as possible.
Legit. Pat. Last year you were on a legit mission. Last year
I had my brother David with me. Yeah, and that helped a lot.
Good dude,
so
man.
He's in Dubai right now, so that's pretty far away. But we were on a mission to eat a lot of chicken wings, and I ate a lot more with him. But I've tried to get as many as I can in. Even in Rochester, I don't even know what the wing scene is out there. I rolled the dice a couple times.
How's it been out there? I don't know what the wing scene is.
It's not the same, brother. It's not the same. They got a bar bill out there now, so that helps. But I've realized.
Is it like the airport? Is it like the airport anchor bar?
There's a lot of restaurants. It's just the wings, they're not the same. Yeah. I tried Jeremiah's Tavern. They're okay, it's fine, but it's It's not like coming out here and going to the multitude of great places that there is to get wings over here.
Yeah, for sure. How important is it for you? You know, you have a daily show, Locked On Bills, of course. You're talking Bills. And when you're not at camp, when you're back home, you know, you're compiling notes, you're talking to people, or at practice, you're going through press conferences, clips, as much as you can, as much information as you could ascertain from other sources to be able to hold conversations and talk about the Bills. How important is it for you to say on a week like this where you get an opportunity, especially early in camp where things are just starting to simmer and develop, that you're able to be here and see as much as you are now firsthand?
Yeah, it's something that's become very important to me in my process. And Lord willing, I don't know that there'd be a year that I wouldn't come up for a week of camp. And even this year, I'm able to get in 5 practices. I think there's maybe a total of 11.
Yeah.
So I'm going to see like half of it.
Yeah.
Which feels very good to me. And getting those firsthand observations is invaluable to my process. I've been the Bills. That's what I do. I Locked On Bills, but I also have another podcast, Locked On NFL Scouting. And really, the way that I got into this football space was the draft and scouting football players. And the Bills have always been a part of that. And I'm thankful that that's become the majority of what I do. But there's that scouting background within me that is really important. And I think I have a unique opportunity to watch what's happening and share some perspective with Bills Mafia on what I see out there. And it's important to enhance my knowledge of the team, but also in this space to give those firsthand observations. And so huge part of my process. I look forward to it every single year. It's a little bit more difficult now. I got 2 kids, only one was not as hard, but my wife is amazing. And it's been really, really valuable to see these players.
When you go to practice, you have like a specific game plan, and there's certain things that you're looking for on specific days. And you do look for things that maybe the average person might not even be looking at. You know, I remember last year, you, myself, and Joe Miller. I remember we were sitting through a practice. Me and Joe Miller, I remember this. We were arguing about Khalil Shakir. Joe was not very high on Khalil Shakir. I'm going to throw him under the bus.
Wow, Joe Miller's catching strays, my
Joe
guy.
Miller
He's
is
out there on the
strays.
lake in his boat, just enjoying a margarita with his family. He's catching strays on Talking Buffalo.
You know what? He deserves it because he was supposed to hook me up with training camp tickets and didn't. So Joe deserves these strays. But seriously, I remember a lot of that being a conversation, and you're really locked in and looking at the offensive line. And I'm like, well, I can't really see anything with the offensive lines. It doesn't feel like they're doing much, but they were. And those are kind of the things that you were locked on when I was with you last year. But anyway, generally speaking, like I said, you're up here for 5 practices. Do you have like a specific game plan? Like, do you approach watching a practice a specific way?
Yeah, I think for the most part, now when it was like day 1 of pads, I wanted to watch the trenches a little bit more. But generally speaking, and this has been my approach with Bills training camp, or if I go to the Panthers sometimes, Senior Bowl, Shrine Game, all of that, my objective is to let it speak to me. Right? Like, you can go out there and you can say, okay, these are the good players and I want to watch them. I try to go into it thinking that I don't know anything about these players and which ones naturally pop. Like, you can feel good football players. Like, there's a presence that they have. You can feel them, especially when you're there. And I try to let it speak to me and go in looking for micro details, but from a macro perspective, it'll come to you. And the worst thing you can do is go to a practice and think, okay, I want to have lots of takeaways. Yeah. Don't do that. Just let it happen. And what stands out, trust your eyes. Whatever stands out, that's the important stuff. And so that's what I try to do. I try to go in and just let the practice speak to me.
So far, and again, you're still going to be here for more practices, but who are a couple players that have really kind of caught your eye? Maybe it's they're catching your eye for all the right reasons. Maybe they're catching your eyes, quite frankly, for some of the wrong reasons.
I have the most boring answer for you. It's Josh Allen. I mean, Josh Allen is on fire, Pat. He is playing with a lot of confidence, and I didn't expect that. One of my concerns about this year was, of course, what a lot of people were thinking of all the newness around Josh.
Sure.
But my concern was that just it felt like every time Josh Allen had new pieces around him, it took some time, right? Whether it was Emmanuel Sanders, Dalton Kincaid, just takes a little time for them to get up to speed. And so I was wondering how Josh would be with so much new around him. How quickly would he begin to trust these new players? The answer is very quickly. And I'm still wondering how this translates to games, but the way that he's trusting Keon Coleman, the way that he is trusting Mac Hollins, the way that he is trusting Curtis Samuel, it's very impressive. He is ripping throws. And it sounds hyperbolic, but I think you would talk to anybody that's been at these practices. Josh Allen's having his best training camp. And you expect he's a superstar quarterback. So, like, that doesn't feel newsworthy, but under these terms, it feels important to me. Like, I could talk about, there's 91 players. We'll talk about whatever you want to. But the biggest takeaway that I have is Josh Allen and how confident he is executing right now, especially given the new offense and the new players around him.
What do you make of some of the stories that have been out there, just speculation, people talking about him in the leadership thing? You know, Josh needs to be more vocal. Josh needs to be a little bit more of an executive type leader. And by the way, what bothers me, because are you in the locker room? No. Even the mainstream media who's there every game, they're not in there for those moments. We don't know what's being said in that locker room or in team meetings and stuff like that. So I don't know, leadership can mean a bunch of different things, but there has been, I don't want to say criticism.
But I think there comes a time in a career where you evolve and you take a step, and you know, you have to be the guy that really sets the standard.
Yeah.
And is a key catalyst in connecting the messaging from the coaching staff to the locker room. And so I think there's so much baked into the word leadership. Leadership just doesn't mean yelling at people because they didn't do something correctly. Mm-hmm. Right. There's so many layers to it. And I think that's where people's minds go, is like, oh, Josh Allen's going to be more vocal and it's going to be more obvious that he's maybe getting in the face of guys. But I think it's more, hey, man, you're 28. You don't necessarily have to fit in and be everyone's buddy. You know, you're the most influential player on the team, right? Like, your best players are your most influential leaders. I've heard that for years from people in the NFL. And I don't think that Josh Allen's ever been a bad leader. And I think his approach has been really, really good. But maybe it's time for him, given Mitch Morse is gone, that Stephon Diggs is gone, Gabe Davis had a C on his jersey, he's no longer around. Hey, this is your chance to put your stamp on this football team in different ways than you have. And I think that's what it's about. I don't want to get twisted and be like, well, Terry Pagula thinks that Josh Allen needs to yell at his teammates more. I don't think that's what it is. Right. I think that there's a maturation process and being willing to be a more deliberate standard setter. And, you know, like, I think you can watch the Bills over the years. There's like lulls in the season, you know, like the 7-6, and they had to go on a run. It's happened 7-5, had to go on a run. In those moments, right? I think that's where we'll find out a little bit more. But I think there's something to it. I don't want Josh Allen to be something that he's not comfortable being either.
Sure,
right? Like, I think that's an important part of the conversation.
Sure. So you come from Charlotte, you come to Rochester for this week. Are you surprised? I mean, I ask you, what have you seen that's good? And you immediately go to Josh Allen. Are you surprised at how good he's looked? Which I know that's kind of weird saying, because to your point, he is a superstar quarterback, but all the changes, Diggs gone, Gabe Davis gone, Sherfield gone, Hardy gone, offensive coordinator, bunch of new bodies. We don't need to go through all of them, but a lot of new things going in place, a lot of new bodies to work with. Are you surprised that Josh Allen, for one little 5-pass stretch and one practice, that aside, are you surprised that he has looked consistently as crisp as he has looked?
A little bit, yeah, just based on all the new things around him and how quickly, right? It's not like this is the end of camp. This is the first 6 practices.
Right.
So to see it so quickly is what really pops for me, and it illustrates a level of comfort. I think the whole mechanics conversation is important, where Josh Allen the last couple of years, he's kind of been beat up, right? And you heard him start to talk last year that at the end of the season he's feeling really good, and he can finally take an offseason, not necessarily to get his body back, but to get his body back and maybe key on some things that he can improve upon. And I think the conversation about the mechanics is important, because if you think about the injuries that he's had, elbow, shoulder, throwing arm, you are going to throw the football differently to deal with the deficiencies of the injury. And I think that has affected some of his ball placement. And for him to kind of go back to the lab, map out his mechanics and figure out what's right and what's wrong to become better with ball placement, I think it says a lot. And I think he's very confident where he can put the football. And it shows up in the decisions that he's making right now. I think you could watch these practices and think to yourself, what's up with the Bills' defense? Why do they stink? Why are they giving up all these plays?
Isn't the defense always supposed to be ahead of the offense early in camp?
they're making, like, it's not like guys are getting cooked in coverage. Josh is throwing dots and guys are making plays. Yeah. And so I think he's just a very confident quarterback. And I think whatever sport you're playing, the best athletes are the ones that are the most confident in what they're doing. And I think Josh Allen just has a lot of confidence right now. And yeah, I do think I'm a little bit surprised that it's happening so quickly, but it's a good thing that it is.
Kyle was here earlier. Maybe I should have brought him in to ask him about Matt Milano. But what have you seen from Matt Milano through practice? Now, I know Monday the Pats went on and he had veteran rest day, so you didn't see anything from Matt Milano on Monday, but you saw him on Tuesday. Where do you feel right now based on what little you've been able to see from him that he is at this point right now? Like, what's your concern level as a Bills fan? I
think he's been up and down. There's been times where I feel like he's definitely shaking off rust and trying to get his feet up under him. And there's other times where I'm like, yeah, he got out there in space and cut off that route, or he was able to cut off an outside run and work out towards the numbers and looking explosive at times. So it's up and down. And I think it's for Matt, it's very much a process of gaining the trust in his ability to plant and drive and change directions. And as that comes, we know the football acumen's there. We know the instincts and the physical demeanor's there. And so I think it's just consistently trusting his ability to plant off that leg. And as that continues to happen, I think he'll be more consistent with some of the splashy stuff that we remember Matt Milano doing.
Yeah, and you get a little concerned, too, because the Bills have been, hit pretty hard with major injuries over the last few years. And we saw Trey come back, and he wasn't the same the first year. Saw Von Miller come back last year, not the same player last year. Looks really good, by the way, which was going to be my next point that I was going to ask you. So I was at camp on Monday, and one of the things that kind of stuck out to me, I thought Von Miller looked pretty good. Then on Tuesday, I wasn't at camp Tuesday, but I saw a lot of reports, heard you talking.
Yeah.
He looked really good. Now, it was a lot of third and long situation, so that kind of benefits the edge rusher in that. But he had a really productive couple of days of practice. It seems, do you look at Von Miller right now and do you see somebody, if he's not 100% of what maybe he was when he signed with the Bills for 2022, he's like really close. Like he's getting some of that bend back, some of that explosion that he clearly did not have last year.
Feel a lot better about Von Miller than I ever anticipated. I was nervous, man. I was really nervous. I mean, the tape was bad last year. And while you can, on one hand, talk yourself into being optimistic because he's now 2 years removed from the ACL, it's also 35 years old. That's tough, man. It's tough to come back from that. And so I'm encouraged. I think he showed up when he's supposed to, right? Third and long was the practice on Tuesday. That's when you want Von Miller. And I think that's going to be an important part of how the Bills manage him. They have a lot of other players in Epinesa and Smoot and Rousseau, and even whichever other defensive end makes the team that can take a lot of those early down reps. I don't need to play Von Miller on 1st and 10 from the 25. That's not an important play.
Right.
But if he can, on long and late downs, come in and give that pass rush, I think the Bills can unlock a lot there, just like it did with Leonard Floyd. Leonard Floyd had like his best sack output. He's been very consistent, like 9+ sacks every year. Yeah. He had 10.5 last year, but it was also the fewest amount of pass rush snaps that he had. I thought they managed an older pass rusher well. I think you copy paste that to Von Miller to get the most out of what's in the tank for Von Miller, and you're not putting him on the field. And I don't need him to play third and one on the goal line. That's not an important snap for Von Miller. I need him long and late downs, and I thought he showed up when he's supposed to show up.
All right, so he's that situational guy right now. The guy on the other side is not a situational guy. He's a guy that people are expecting, and quite frankly, the Bills might need to be a breakout player this year. I'm talking about Greg Rousseau. So part of my routine, and my buddy, I'm thinking of my buddy Joe from Queens. He's going to call me Pandering Pat for this, but I listen to Locked On Bills, and then I also read The Athletic. I read Joe Biscaglia's observations from practice almost religiously. Listen to a lot of podcasts, and I read a lot of articles, but those are like the things that I always go to. And Joe, and this really resonated with me, caught me by surprise a little bit. He said through the first 3 or so days of practice that Greg Rousseau was the MVP of the team. That's how good he has looked. Do you like what you're seeing from him? And do you agree with me? He's got to be a guy this year. He's been good. Like his floor's been high. Like he's been solid, but he needs to take that next step for this defense to reach its potential. Maybe not just him alone, but he's certainly one of those key guys in that defense that really needs to elevate his game to another level this year.
Yeah, I think, first of all, Greg Rousseau is a good starter, right? Like probably one of the best run defending defensive ends in the league. And then like a good pass rusher.
Right.
I think we want him to be a great pass rusher. Right. Like let's show up big moments. The other team's figuring out their protection scheme, how to stop that guy, right? That's what you're looking for. And I'd love for him to take that step this year. And I think there's reasons that you could talk yourself into it. He's a young player. Like At Miami, he only played like one full season on the edge. He was a safety and a wide receiver, and then coming to the NFL and getting his feet up under him and flashing, and then he's had some injuries that he's played through. He feels like a guy that's ready to bust out. He feels like it. I would agree with Joe B that he's been very good in camp. I think the downside of that is he's working Spencer Brown pretty hard right now.
Yeah, which I've noticed that too. You usually sees Spencer Brown, at his expense.
I'm hopeful that he's just, he spent the offseason working back from the shoulder injury, and so that he's shaking off some rust. But Rousseau looks good, and I think you're hopeful that maybe one of these things could happen, that Von Miller could come back and be closer, that Greg Rousseau could break out. What if both of those things happen? Because it feels that way right now. That's certainly an optimistic look at it, but I think Rousseau's primed to make more impact. Is he going to be a 15-sack guy? I don't know, but I feel like more impact is coming for Rousseau, and the signs that we're seeing from camp give us a lot of confidence in that.
We are here live at Sonny Red's in Lackawanna. We are by the way, well over 1,000 people watching this live right now on the video side, which considering we already went out for a handful of seconds, that's pretty good. There's a ton of comments. I'm not putting them up on the screen because now I'm nervous. I think when I was putting them up earlier when you were talking, maybe that did something to the internet, made it a little bit weird. So I do appreciate all the people that are commenting. That we see them. I just don't want to throw them up on the screen. You can see that. Plenty of some Joe Marino love there in the comments section. But, yeah, I don't want to mess around and touch anything. Next thing you know, the internet might go out again. But anyway, yeah, I'm here with Joe Marino, Locked On Bills. Quick side question here. So you're a Bills fan, and you have never, ever hid from that, which I respect.
Yeah.
But – and you'll end your show, Go Bills, every episode. So you're a Bills fan. You don't run from that, but you also are able to still remain objective. You are certainly not above criticizing a player or a coach or a situation when it warrants it. Was it a little bit difficult for you to get in the process, get in the habit of, hey, I am a fan. I'm telling you I'm a fan. I'm not going to sit here because so many of these people, Joe, quite frankly, are full of shit. When they say they're not a fan of the team, they are. And they're just denying it, but that's okay. That's okay. You don't do that. You are a fan of this team, and you admit that. But yet, you could have a New Orleans Saints shirt on. I still think you're going to talk just as objectively about the Buffalo Bills when you're doing your show. I guess what I'm asking you is talk about that process a little bit of just getting comfortable, being able to be critical of a team when it's warranted, even if you are a fan of it. Because you don't want to sound like Captain Fanboy on an episode when the team's playing like shit, the defense is making a lot of mistakes. You can't really get away with that.
I guess I just compartmentalize it a little bit.
Yeah.
I love the Bills, man. I love football. And I think my love for football helps me be objective. Like, I know good ball, I know bad ball.
Yeah.
And so I just want to be honest, man. Like, if we're going to have good conversations about the team, we got to be honest.
Yeah.
And, I love the Bills. I want them to win every game. I do. Like, seriously. But at the same time, I want to be honest with people, and I want to have good conversations. I think probably my desire for good football conversations is what fuels it. It's tough, man. You see the conversations people have. It's like, what are we doing?
I know what you're saying.
It's like, and the worst is like between division rival fans. Like, watch Dolphins and Bills fans have a conversation on Twitter. Like, is anybody saying anything meaningful?
No.
It's so pointless. And I just want to have good conversations. And if that means that I say something that somebody might not want to hear about Josh Allen or Sean McDermott or whatever their favorite player is, I'm going to be honest about it because I want to have good football conversations.
Yeah, and I definitely think people respect that for sure. Silly question, too, which maybe only I would give a shit about, but your intro. Like, when you have an intro, did it develop over time? Like, when you say Bills Mafia,
I don't
know. And you love to emphasize Bills Mafia, like, when did that become habit? Like, when did that become part of the Joe Marino Locked On Bills intro shtick? You know what I mean? Having it like a wrestler. Great wrestlers always have a catchphrase. Like, that is clearly one of your catchphrases when you say it that way.
I think
it's a silly question, but I'm interested.
I appreciate it. I just went over 1,500 episodes of Locked On Bills.
Congratulations, by the way. That's awesome.
Thank you. So somewhere along the way this happened. And I'd probably have to go back and like maybe listen to some of them and just kind of see. But I think it is important. And like, if you know me, I'll have podcasting conversations. I think it's important that whenever somebody listens to your show, there's audio cues that people kind of, dude, it's a great shirt. That guy's got the best shirt on homage right there, the Bruce Smith one.
Oh, nice.
I think it's important that there's certain things that happen along the way that people know what I'm about to get into. When people hear, "What's up, Bills Mafia?" They know what they're getting. They know what they're getting. You know what I mean? And so I want that. Like, I'm a big consistency guy. I think there's zero quality without consistency. And so I want to replicate things that I think are important, that give my show a bit of a brand, and that people know. And they hear that, okay, it's Joe, he's talking Bills, and this is the type of conversation I'm going to get. So I guess it just kind of worked. And
it's great energy to start the show.
And it's for me, too.
It feels like it gets you going. It gets the motor going for you a little bit. Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Like, I want to bring energy, right? There's a guy, Chris McLean. He's a radio host in Charlotte, WFNZ 610. Actually, they just switched to FM. Doesn't matter. I was able to do some studio work with him from time to time. And every time I would go in there, I was just so impressed by, like, this guy is talking to 10,000 people or whatever in Charlotte. Nobody can see him. And my guy is up in his chair, just like really into it. You can tell he finds that energy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, like, I was like, I got to find that for myself. And so part of that is my intro.
Yeah, you're really good at that. Bruce Nolan's another one, too, who's really good.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages,
he gets
welcome. Welcome to another episode of the edition.
He sounds
of the
like Vince McMahon almost a little
Right.
bit the way he starts. But, yeah, he brings the energy as well.
You know
Anyway,
what? Wait, you know what? There's a Bruce Nolan take. He has a little bit of a Richard Dreyfuss. You ever seen What About Bob?
Yeah.
He's got some of that Richard Dreyfuss, like when he gets fired up. I've said that to him, too.
I've never thought of that until you just said that. That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to have to go back and watch that movie, by the way.
It's
That
worth it. It's a good movie.
Great movie.
Great movie, yeah.
All right, so look, when you're at camp, obviously you're looking for trends. You're looking for, player positional battles, developments. But I think the most important thing is always going to be injuries, staying healthy. And through 3 days, the Bills were healthy. And now over the last couple of days, one position specifically, not so much anymore. So Mike Edwards goes down with a hamstring injury. McDermott said Monday he's going to be week to week. Cole Bishop, as we're recording this, I want to make sure we put that out there late on what's going on here at Sonny Red? It's getting packed in here again, by the way. I think we got the second wave of Joe Marino fans here. But anyway, as we're recording this late on Wednesday night, we still don't know what the status is of Cole Bishop. Hopefully you'll be there Thursday morning. We'll find out some news. But anyway, it could be something significant. The Bills have already signed one safety. Now the Bills have actually signed a second safety. No Micah Hyde, no Justin Simmons, which has always been the talk of Twitter now for the last couple months. How concerned are you about the safety position? Do you think that Sean McDermott has legitimate confidence right now in DeMar Hamlin to potentially be that week one starting free safety? Or do you feel if Mike Edwards and Cole Bishop, if those end up being injuries that are more than, if they're on the longer side, that they may still go look at it, Micah, or they may go hunting for Justin Simmons? What do you think?
So the position that we had the most questions about entering camp, those questions have all intensified, right?
For different reasons.
Real quick. It's funny how that goes, right? A lot to unpack here. First of all, we know the Bills' original plan because they told us. They wanted Mike Edwards to start. Sean McDermott said the plan was that he was going to run with the first team in spring and that he wasn't available and because the shoulder rehab, and that opened the door for DeMar Hamlin to get a lot of reps. And anybody that was at those OTAs talked about DeMar Hamlin kind of being the star.
Yeah.
It's camp, and you realize that DeMar Hamlin at least earned the opportunity to be the guy that starts camp as a starter. You get to the next day, Mike Edwards takes his turn, then Cole Bishop takes his turn. So now you're like, okay, we got a three-way battle here. Edwards week to week with a hamstring. Bishop yesterday, arm injury. We don't know the severity, but signing Kareem Jackson and Terrell Burgess is not a good sign for where those guys are at. Kareem Jackson, 193-game starter in the NFL. He's 36 years old. He's basically started every single season since 2010. Mm-hmm. I don't think he came to Buffalo to run down the field on punt team, all right? I don't think that's why he's here. I think he believes he's got a chance to start. And we'll see how that plays out. And even Brandon Beane said on some – I don't remember what show it was on. He recently said that they tried to get Kareem Jackson in prior years, and Denver wouldn't give him up. I think he tried to trade for Kareem Jackson. So another one – this has happened a few times with Emmanuel Sanders – with Von Miller, just different guys, John Brown, guys that he's wanted, didn't get him, and then eventually does. So I think that there's some level of belief from Kareem Jackson that he's going to play. Then I think everyone goes to the Micah Hyde piece of this, right? And 2 months ago, Micah Hyde was like, it's cool if they need him. Kind of at the point where they need him.
That's what I'm saying.
We're here.
You don't want to go to camp?
You think Micah Hyde, though, wants to go to Rochester?
No.
So I think they got to at least get through camp before Micah Hyde's interested in being part of this equation. I mean, it's July 31st. The Bills play on September 8th. There's a lot of time. There's a lot of time for Micah Hyde. There's a lot of time for these guys to get healthy. And I think the last thing to talk about with the safety stuff, if there's anything that I trust McDermott on, it's safeties. His career is off the charts at Philly, Carolina, and Buffalo. And so there's just a part of me that if there's something that you could live with being a little unsettled right now, it's probably one safety spot. Sure. So it's the thing to panic about, but at the same time, when you kind of peel off the layers, things going to be okay. And DeMar Hamlin still, it feels like they kind of wanted him to be the starter anyways.
He started day one, and for what little tiny bit it's worth, he was the starter the first day of camp with the one. So he did get the first run.
In 2022, when DeMar Hamlin wound up Micah Hyde goes down, DeMar Hamlin starting 11, 12 games in a row. And going into that Cincinnati game on Monday night, did you think one time that the Bills would not be able to go on a deep postseason run because DeMar Hamlin was starting?
No.
You never thought it.
No, I was comfortable with him. I was comfortable with him.
Well, did he make mistakes? Yeah, he sure did. But, he's also now further removed from all of that, probably in a good headspace to say, hey, okay, I had my thing. It's obviously one of the most unprecedented things in the history of the NFL. And now it's like, okay, it's do or die time. You know what I mean? Right now I'm battling. I was inactive all season.
Yeah.
If I want to be a meaningful player in this league that's known for something other than the cardiac arrest, which is, unbelievable, right? I'm not taking anything away from that.
Right.
But I think it's important for DeMar. I'm a football player. He's got a great chance in front of him to earn that job.
You were talking about the Bills and the Miami Dolphins discourse and feuding on social media, and they're not really saying anything. Just a bunch of yelling at a wall. I kind of feel the runner-up to that of our pro-DeMar Hamlin and anti-DeMar Hamlin people. There's a lot of people who just think he's the mascot of the team because of what happened and that he's still with the organization. He's not a real football player. He's a story now. I see a lot of that on social media, and I absolutely hate it. I despise it with a passion. And there's a lot of people out there, maybe not even so much Bills fans, just people around the league who say DeMar's only still in the league because of what happened and he's not even any good.
I can't even begin to build that argument.
No.
If he was,
but people are saying
he started on
12
games or 100% of the snaps for a Super Bowl contender.
I agree, man. I agree.
What are we doing? Have you paid attention to Sean McDermott's career and late round DBs and what they do?
Agreed.
He felt like he was on that path.
Yeah.
And last season was probably a very challenging year for everybody because obviously DeMar wanted to get back, right? It's important. He wanted to play again. And maybe there's a lot of circumstances, mental and physical, that probably made last year pretty tough for everybody. And no, I wouldn't want to be the guy that cut DeMar Hamlin last year. If this guy wants to come back and do this thing, I want to be behind that guy. But now we're further removed.
Sure.
It's just professional football. There's too much at stake for him to be a character, man. He's either able to play and competing for this job or he's not.
Agreed.
You're not playing around, man. There's people's livelihoods at stake based on the success of this football team. They're not doing anybody any favors. This guy either belongs or he doesn't. Right now, he's running first team for a reason.
We all have our 53-man roster projections going into camp, and I'll kind of call myself out already. I thought DeMar Hamlin was going to be one of those guys who was likely to get cut. Not because of all the outside stuff, just I'm talking Edwards, Bishop, Rapp. I like Cam Lewis. I thought Cam Lewis, by the way, which he's not really playing safety. He's kind of playing that slot corner right now. So I was like, I could see a scenario where he gets cut. But then I remember last year, I was furious that Terrell Bernard was even in the mix to be a starter. I thought that was a joke. I'm like, what are we doing at camp? Was not impressed with him. Didn't even play in the preseason. And then look what Terrell Bernard became in the regular season. We've seen some stuff. We saw nothing from Terrell Bernard before week 1 last year. That would suggest he was going to be what he was going to be.
Right.
We've seen some stuff from DeMar Hamlin in 2022 that suggests that if he is a starter, he could be maybe not an all-pro safety, but he could certainly be a productive safety in this league with a guy like Sean McDermott who does excel at coaching safeties.
He's by far the most experienced safety in this system on the roster.
Yeah.
It's not particularly close.
Yeah.
Taylor Rapp's the only other guy. He's 1 year. DeMar's in his 3rd season with the team. Or is it 4th? It's 4th season. Yeah. So there's no charity work here. He's got a shot.
Do you have any inclination right now on who you think is going to end up calling plays? Is going to be McDermott? You think it's going to be Babbage?
That's one of my big takeaways watching this team. Sean McDermott is back to CEO Sean McDermott.
Yeah.
He's I would say it's the most hands-off I've seen him.
Really?
Yeah, I think he's very much like coaches are coaching. He's letting them do their thing, hands off, kind of stands behind. He might. I mean, I'm on the sideline. He's like, all right, 3rd and 6. That's all he's saying. Bobby Babbitt is doing it all.
Wow.
Yeah, I would be stunned, literally stunned, if it wound up being McDermott.
I hope that's the
plays.
case.
Yeah.
Good. That's what I would like to see.
There's no indication in anything that I've seen that anyone other than Bobby Babbitt is calling the plays.
Okay. All right, so we're talking safeties. Obviously, that's become a position in need right now, a critical position because of injuries. Since OTAs going into camp, it's been the wide receivers has been the talk. Maybe not for the best reasons. Who's going to step up? Is this unit going to be any good? Is Keon Coleman going to look good at camp? I feel like so far that answer, by the way, with Keon has been yes. Matt Collins, I like what I saw from him Monday, and he has looked really good. He's a lot to make this team. When you're looking at the bottom, we have people taking pictures of Joe while he's on the air. This is live TV right now. This is what I love about it. But anyway, we're looking at the bottom part of the wide receiver depth chart right now. The top 4 to me are cemented in stone. The Bills keep 5 or 6 that we don't know. In fact, I heard this on your show. I thought they kept 6, but they only kept 5.
Everybody keeps asking me that.
I know. I
was
found that
with
from your
Marino
show.
and John Scott. I was like, guys, they rostered 5. Matt Perino checking checking his article on NY Up from last year. Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. Oh, yeah, they had Justin Shorter. They put him on IR, and they rostered 5. Diggs, Davis, Sherfield, Hardy, Shakir. There was no other player. Sometimes they'd call up Isabella off the practice squad. So, we got to be prepared for this to be another 5 people, potentially.
Okay, well, let's pretend that it is going to be a 5-person roster again. Yeah. Those top 4 are set.
I think so.
Matt Collins ain't getting cut.
No.
Who's got the beeline for the 5th right now? If I would have told you, or if I would have asked you 2 weeks ago, Tyrell Chambers is firmly in the mix. If you would ask me that, I would have said you're crazy. That don't sound crazy right now, though. I mean, he's in the mix, isn't he?
It's impossible to ignore. I mean, he's been getting, of all the contenders, he's clearly gotten the most first-team reps across the most days. Then you listen to what everybody's saying. McDermott, Bean, Brady, Dawkins. They can't stop talking about this guy, talking about consistency, work ethic, understanding the offense, versatility. Oh, by the way, he's known for special teams. Like at San Diego State, he was like a special teams ace, all-time leader in block punts. Like that's what he does. Yeah. And so if it comes down to the young player that you feel like has done everything that you could imagine a UDFA doing to position himself for this, or MVS, when MVS is a one-trick pony, man, he's a deep threat. He's not going to play special teams. No, he's not going to do it. The biggest thing that MVS has going for him, well, I would say 2 things. He's proven in the NFL.
Yeah.
But also he's got his contract is fully guaranteed. He's got $2.25 million guaranteed. There's 4 void years on the back end of his deal. The intent was very clearly for him to make the roster. So is that your argument for 6 receivers? You keep them both. But if it's only going to be 5, I think you got those 2 guys and maybe Hamler, because Hamler's getting run as a kick and punt returner. And so there's that piece of it as well.
MVS to me would, if you're going to make an argument that last year they rostered 5, 6, maybe MVS's track record of making big plays and stepping up in the playoffs could convince them to roster that 6th receiver. But again, 0 value when it comes to special teams with him, which puts guys like Hamler and Shamler. What about Justin Shorter? Have you seen? I feel like I haven't heard much about him. Has it been a quiet camp?
Practice. First of all, he did get first-team reps yesterday. Okay, so that happened. He got first-team reps. That's not nothing. And then secondly, when the Bills practiced their punt team, the first pair of gunners, Matt Collins and Justin Shorter, that's not nothing either. So he's had some special teams opportunities. He's had some first-team reps. Has he made plays? No. Does he stand out? Not consistently, but he's getting some opportunity, which he should. It's 6 days in the camp. You want to put guys in positions, see how they do, feel it out, and tinker with stuff. It's the time to do it. I think he's got an uphill climb. I think he needs help.
Winding down here at Sonny Red's. Puntapalooza's over already. Is that a little?
It was no. If you watched practice yesterday, you realize Browning was not very good. Right. So yeah, I was dialed in on that yesterday, and Sam Martin was by far the most consistent. Now, Jack Browning would have some boomers, beautiful spirals, launched it. But he also had one too many of the shank off the foot, and it literally just goes into the stands. Never happened with Martin. So I thought he was more consistent punter, and then he's not a rookie, right? Like, so there's time on task. Sam Martin's had a couple of years with Tyler Bass and the holding element. So, and Sam Martin's contract was fully guaranteed. So he would have to have been like definitively better for them to cut Sam Martin.
Okay. Last Bill's question here. Do you feel a sense of uncertainty with this team this year? Now, you've been to camp and you're still going to be here for a couple more practices as well. So you're seeing a lot right now. But this feels to me like a team that could be really good, maybe better than they've been over the last handful of years. Or this could really be a team in transition, if the receivers don't step up, if Connor McGovern struggles at center, if Von Miller ends up being washed up once the games count, if they struggle at the safety position, stuff like that. So it seems like there's a lot of uncertainty right now with this team, which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah. I mean, you could talk yourself however you want. You could spin that however you want to. I think the schedule is going to be another story to navigate. I think it's pretty tough. Like, I was looking at it, Arizona, Miami, Jacksonville, Houston, Baltimore. It's like good team after good team. There's nowhere to hide, man. You can't have lulls. And so you think about it like this. I mean, Bills Dolphins play week 2, Thursday Night Football. Miami opens with Jacksonville. Somebody could be 0-2.
Sure.
You could be 2.5 back in the division, and you've played 2 games. So I think it's going to be a really competitive year. I think the Bills are going to be a really good football team. But how it all comes together is going to be the X factor. And I don't think they're going to be bad. I think they're probably like a 9-win team would be the worst they could be. But can they win 11, 12 games, go on a run? And we'll find out. I think there's reasons to be optimistic, and you could spin it however you want.
I don't know if it's being a homer or just being optimistic, but I feel good about this team right now. I feel good about this offense. I really do. I think this offense with Joe Brady being there for the entire offseason, and Josh Allen might take his game to a level that's great as he's been that we haven't seen before. I like Khalil Shakir an awful lot. I think Samuel's going to bring a lot to this team. Dalton Kincaid, year 2. Cook's still ascending. Ray Davis, you might get something from him. There's a lot of
names there, Pat. It's not just Diggs, man.
Yeah.
Kincaid, Knox, Samuel, Shakir, Hollins, Ray Davis, James Cook. There's so much that this team has to offer. They might not have a superstar proven touch the ball 200 times, but they got a lot of guys that are knocking on the door of that. And I think the everybody eats philosophy sounds very attractive. And I really like the idea of like Josh Allen executing, but not with the burden of throwing the ball to Stephon Diggs 150 times.
Right.
Just play ball. That's kind of an exciting thing.
Last question here. Not even really. Well, I guess it is a question. So last year I had you at Imperial Pizza. And Joe, besides being a podcaster, is also an author. You've authored books. Go Bills. I remember last year at Imperial, you had a bunch of books with you. People were coming up. You were signing books. Or somebody here, I believe, had a book.
Signed a couple.
Signed a couple today. Is there any plans in the future for another Joe Marino book?
First of all, thank you. Go Bills is sold out. Like, there's no more copies. So I think there might be some used one out there. Like if Barnes and Noble has some inventory, that's the only way to get it. I have 2 copies. They're my own personal copies that I'll give to my kids one day. So what we need to happen is we need the Bills to win the Super Bowl so that way I can update the book and the publisher will much more. Your question was if there's plans for more books. I mean, there's been a couple things on the table. But I think more like personally we just welcomed another baby.
Yeah.
So I have a 3.5-month-old. I'm not going to hide from it. I've had some professional things happen in the last couple of years that have been a lot to deal with that I haven't really been in a good place to do it. But I have 2 opportunities on the table. It's just a matter of when I want to do them.
That's awesome, man.
So we're thinking about it.
That's awesome.
We're thinking.
Quick little fun story as we get out of here. I go to the McKinley Mall often, and I walk around with my wife. And we'll walk past Barnes & Noble, and your book's still sitting in, like, the front.
Wow.
Like, when you walk past Barnes & Noble, right, like as recently as, like, maybe a week or 2 ago.
If you haven't gotten a copy, that's the spot to get it.
It's there on a display. At least there's one on a display. And I always tell my wife, like, guys, that's my man, Joe Marino. She goes, I know, dude.
It's in your
background.
It's in your background, man. I appreciate that being in there.
It is in my podcast studio background. But all right, that's going to do it for this episode. You still got to where are you staying this week?
Rochester. I'm heading back out tonight. That's further than I want it to be, Pat.
Yeah,
further than I want it to be.
All right. Well, again, thank you one more time to Sonny Reds, and we do still have some wings there, delicious wings that at least I know I'm going to be getting after. Maybe you'll teach me that trick again.
The umbrella. Come on, you got to get the meat umbrella. I know you're interested. It's the third time you brought it up. You want to learn.
I do. I don't know if I'm intrigued.
All right.
I'm going to admit that. I'm definitely intrigued. But anyway, Joe Marino, Locked On Bills. I'm Pat Moran. Thank you very much for watching, for listening. Even with internet struggles, still had over 1,400 people here on the live side. So appreciate you guys very much. Thank you for watching. Be back with a brand new show tomorrow. Talk to you guys then.